I waited until I could feel the head. I was like, Michael, pop out and tell him I can feel the head, you know? And so you tell him, like, you open the door and they're all kind of sitting there. It's like you're like 5 a.m. or whatever. And you're like, hey, my wife can feel the head. What'd you see?
It was, I walked out. They were all, on their computers. I said, hey, my wife's going to give birth. She can feel the head.
And then
like 10 of them just instantly stood up.
All of them pop up and run to the room.
Hey, I'm Amanda, mom, doula, childbirth educator, and birth nerd. Welcome to Let's Talk Birth, the podcast where we get into real birth stories, talk through the awkward stuff, and cover the things nobody told you about. So grab your raspberry leaf tea, get comfy, and let's talk birth. Hey, welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, this is actually part 2 of my conversation with Michael and Justina Branson. So you might want to hit pause and go check out part 1 first. In that episode, they share the births of their first 2 babies, Judah and Brielle. Listening to that episode will give you the full story and all the context for what we're jumping into today. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so we've hinted a little bit about your third birth. Before we dive into that, because I'm very excited. I've been waiting to hear this birth story, because it's wild. Let's talk about what the preparation was like for this third one, knowing how fast your second one happened and how well it went and how much you enjoyed the whole process. When you found out you were pregnant with your first girl, what was your process in preparation for her labor?
Yeah, I think I knew how the difference that it made, just totally trusting my midwives with the second to lead to a perfectly healthy home birth. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I do the same thing, get on all the supplements. And, I know my body, like I tend to lean towards gestational diabetes things. So I'm going to do the same kind of like diet control, this, that, and the other. So I actually had messaged this time. The biggest difference that I did is before I was pregnant, I had contacted my midwife, which I had never done with my first 2. I was like, we're going to try to get pregnant, basically. And so she was like, okay, start taking these prenatal whatevers, which I had never done before, in my first 2. So it was like even more preparation. And then, whatever, we got pregnant, I think 2 months after I had messaged her that. And then it was day 1 that we're being cared for by her. And, yeah, I think that I really think I was expecting it to just fully go the same as with Brew because of that. But anyway, I remember we got our girl and it was just so exciting. And I think that was just the difference. It's just a little bit earlier and planning to do the same amount of supplements and same amount of health things and take better care of my body this time around. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, much more confident with the third.
Yeah, I think honestly, it sounds weird. I think I did less preparation mentally. Like this time I felt like I had no time to prepare. I think I had the time, but between the 2 toddlers and now I had experience going into labor, I know that I can do it. I don't think I even really mentally prepared like I did the second birth. The first birth I mentally prepared. I was nervous. The second birth, I was like really, really mentally preparing because I never experienced labor like naturally before. And this time I was like, all right, I have no time and I've done it once. So I'm sure by the end, at some point, I'll probably feel the urge to prepare. So it's kind of a mix of like not preparing this time and yeah.
Our life was so busy.
Just busy.
So you expected Brielle's birth to go like Brew's. So you expected a home birth. It was probably going to be a little faster than Brew's was. And what ended up happening?
Yeah, so I always did, because we just have Kaiser insurance. Like it's just cheaper and easier to just go get lab work done. That first set of lab work when you're like 8 to 10 weeks, and they just confirm the baby. All the stuff that I can just do like up till the 20-week anatomy scan. That's just easier to just get done there. So at the first lab work thing. So with Judah, I also got diagnosed with hypothyroidism with Judah. So it's just like always kind of little things in pregnancy. And so they had me on whatever medication for that. And then I had that same with Brew, my second. I always stopped taking it in between pregnancies, even though they said like once you have it, you take it forever. So I don't know if I needed to take it in between pregnancies, but when I get pregnant, I just start it up again because I know the thyroid has to do with the hormones and it's good for those to be balanced for pregnancy. So this time I did my blood work around 8 to 10 weeks, and those numbers were like more off than they were in the last. So they doubled my dose. They're like, oh, you need to double it. Like we're going to prescribe you much stronger thyroid medication. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And my midwife was like, yeah, I asked her what her opinion was. Go ahead and do it. You know, you want to make sure those are balanced. We don't want to mess with the hormones. And then the only other thing is I was looking at my test results and my liver enzymes were elevated. And, you know, they have the bar on their test results that have like the green, yellow, and red, and they were like up in the red. And I was like, no one had messaged me though from the hospital about it. So I messaged the doctor or whatever. And I was like, hey, my lab work came back and they're pretty elevated. You know, they look pretty elevated. They're all the way in the red. Like, should I be concerned or what should I be doing? You know, like what, that doesn't seem normal. And they were like, oh, it could be elevated for a number of reasons. We'll just test again in 6 to 8 weeks. Like that was literally it. And I was like, there's nothing I should be doing. So of course I had messaged, you know, when my first appointment with Heather, and they gave me like, she gave me the phone number of like a holistic doctor and like also a tea recipe with all these specific ingredients in it that support the liver, just like all of these things holistically. And so I just got on all of those things immediately, and we were just making sure. And Heather has the ability, my midwife, when I say Heather, to also draw blood work as well, you know. So now she knows we're keeping an eye on those liver levels. So I'm doing all these teas, I'm drinking all the juices, I'm doing whatever diet changes. And then I test again through Kaiser, and a couple weeks later, and they had gone down a little bit. So I was like, okay, everything's working. This is great, you know. And then everything else was normal. This time again, I did a continuous glucose monitor, like on my arm instead of the finger pricks, just to like, and then my fasting numbers were off. And so I just adjusted my diet, just treated it like I already had gestational diabetes and just adjusted accordingly, like I did with Brew, like just diet controlled basically. Other than that, there was no other concerns. She was, breached for a while, they could tell, and she flipped back around, so that was fine. And even then my midwife was not concerned about her being breached. You know, she's like, it was just like there was nothing really too concerning besides that. And then same with the gestational diabetes, like she was like, okay, we just want to make sure. I think she measured bigger than the midwife liked at one of my appointments. So she was like, okay, you need to really like crack down on your diet. And then by the next appointment, everything was normal again. So she's like, okay, we're making the changes. The point of holistic care is to like preventative things, you know, all these things that you can do holistically, naturally to make birth like smooth and natural and easy. And then I remember the itching from my first, you know, that was like kind of what cascaded into everything. But by then I had experienced itching with Judah like after 40 weeks. This time it was like, I think around like 36 weeks or something. So earlier. And I just let them know. And I was like, okay, I'm itching again. So they were like, okay, just make sure you're like, let's crack down again on your diet. Make sure we're supporting your liver, you know, like all this stuff. And it would kind of go on. Yeah.
When you say itching, what was itching specifically?
Like itching everywhere, just no rash, but just everywhere, all over my body, my back, my belly, my arms. And then yes, some on the palms of my hands and feet, which typically cholestasis is like hugely, your feet and your hands start itching like a lot and you can't even sleep if it's like aggressive, like getting that escalated. So I just knew that typically when you're itching all over, it's your liver's kind of struggling, you know. And because I had already had so early on in pregnancy, my liver enzymes were off. Like I was like, okay, that's something I'm not going to not take seriously again, you know. And so kind of told Heather. And then I think around like 37 weeks, so about a week of like pretty like consistent itching, I was like, all right, Heather, I'm like itching a lot. And she's like, okay, she was like, okay, it's up to you. Like, does your gut say we should draw livers, or do you think you're okay? Because again, this is what cascaded last time into like the whole induction process. She's like, I'm okay either way. You kind of have to feel it out, but you know, if you want to test them, that's fine. And there's things we can do even if they come back where it's like they're elevated. You know, it's not like, okay, they're elevated, we're gonna have to induce. So I was like, okay, I think I'll wait a couple days, you know, that's fine. And just like really go hard on like drinking double the amount of the liver support tea and this, that, and the other. Anyway, she called me back later that night. She's like, why don't we just do your levels anyway? You know, she's like, I have Quest Diagnostics picking up blood work tonight. Like, if you can just get over to my house, we'll just draw your, and then just throw it in the batch just because. It's like, okay, fine. So we did that. And then it typically takes about a week to get the levels, you know, the results back. And so by then I'm like 38 and 4 days, 40, 38 and 5, I think. And it was like, that was on a Monday that we drew them. And then Saturday morning, we woke up, we were getting ready to go to the park with our family. I felt really good that day, no itching. I felt like really pretty that day. And I put on a dress for the first time, like in all of pregnancy. It was like a nice spring day. And I was like, I did my makeup for the first, I don't know. It was just like, this is nice. It was a nice morning. And then, I got a call from Heather that morning and she was like, hi. And I was like, oh my gosh, no. She's like, yeah, so your level, like the levels that they typically should be are like about 30 or 40. What we're the highest that we're comfortable with them escalating to is 78 to 100. And yours are at 450. And she's like, I've literally been calling all my midwife friends to just get their second opinion because I don't want you to have to be induced. But all of them are like, Heather, that's just the highest we've ever seen. Like, we have no clue what that's going to do to the baby. So she's like, I think you should go in and for now, just go in and have them retest you, because that was, again, we had taken them a week ago. So for the whole week, I had been also doing things to support my liver. So what if they went back down, you know? And basically we went to triage. We kind of took our time. My mom happened to be hanging out with my boys there that day. So it all kind of worked out. So I was like, okay, mom, you can just stay for the day and we're just going to go into the hospital. We went and got lunch on the way in and checked in about like 1 or 2. And, I mean, I knew once we were there, they were going to be like, you should just stay. And that's pretty much what they did. And then Heather, pretty much, my levels did actually end up going down, but not to, I think, down to like 265 or something. So not even like back to normal. And my midwife was like, I just think you should just stay. You know, your liver is clearly like struggling with supporting this baby. And it was just kind of like a fever dream. I literally was like not convinced that we would be getting induced that day. Like, it was just weird to like just pack our bags right then and there. And I was like, so we could still be heading home, you know? Anyway, and we just stayed. We just told our family, we're just staying. We're going to do this. I guess this is it, you know? With Judah, it was like, we had like a couple days where we knew the induction was scheduled for this day. So we're like a couple days leading up to it. This was just like, all right, we're just in a split second. Everything just changed. We're just going in. And so, yeah, that was kind of what leading up to it. Yeah. You know, like how the induction kind of happened. which I looked at Michael and I was like, Heather is our midwife, is very much like, she's very safe. She's always drawing my blood work. She's always, you know, doing things proactively, but she's also very much like, even if your baby's breech, like you can have a breech baby at home. Like, you know, she is not like quick to jump to the hospital. So I was like, the fact that she's like, I think you should stay. I'm like, that's why we hire a midwife, is like, she is there. They prevent emergencies. And so I trust her being like, it's that important that you stay. So I felt a lot of peace about it. Whereas Judah, I was so sad. I was giving up some even like false weird stuff in my heart about like proving to everyone about having a home birth. This time I was like, all right, the baby's just coming. I'm like, the sad thing was I was excited for Judah to be at my home birth. Like, you know, like he was excited. I was preparing him and he was like very excited about it. And this time I was like, this time my mom will get to be there. I'm going to message everyone early enough that they can be there and everyone will be there. Cause this could be my last like pregnancy, you know, and my last like natural birth. And, so that was sad, was like, man, like Judah's not gonna, you know, he maybe, but he probably won't be able to experience this. My mom won't be, I'm her only daughter. She won't be able to experience her only daughter giving birth, you know, like, so that was hard. But then other than that, I was like, all right, here we go. And even Michael was like, all right, babe, we've done this induction before. We're not going to do the where you're getting Pitocin and not have an epidural. Like you just get the epidural. We're not, now that our plans have changed, like the second you need an epidural, like let's just do it. He was like, you should just get it right away. I was like, well, you can't just like preemptively
If
get
you're
it.
getting Pitocin.
Yes, yeah. So we just kind of accepted it, you know, we're like, all right, this is what's happening. And
So before we jump into the actual birth, Michael, do you have anything to add to the lead up to the birth? Like what was going on in your head?
Yeah, it was really nice to have Heather doing visits with Justina and testing all that stuff.
yeah,
It just feels like you're super cared for, which is nice. You know, just knowing there's like a professional person who isn't, she doesn't have like 500 clients. She's just got a handful, you know, so that personal care is really nice because she
Yeah.
knows Justina, knows her history, knows her personally. And
yeah.
so that care is really nice.
I'm not like one of 500 patients on her.
That was one of my biggest takeaways from pregnancy 3, birth number 3 was I saw it from a different light, having been a business owner myself now, where when I was running Pool Ninja and
like
we had a bigger pool company, over 500 pools, you hand off stuff a lot between employees, and there's constant handoffs, you know, and there's processes at play. And so one of my biggest takeaways was the hospital, their processes and all the handoffs. Like there's so many different people coming through, and
So they don't know
even
your personal heart and your personal story.
well, and even before the birth, like like there's no really preventative maintenance. There's no really preventative care. The like the midwives are so awesome at doing that, you know. So that was one of my bigger takeaways was specifically because 1 and 2 were just, you know, a whirlwind. 3, I really saw the distinction in that. I just thought that was super interesting. I mean, I was honestly one of my takeaways. I was like, wow, I would encourage, whether someone's doing a hospital birth or a home birth, get a midwife
Yeah,
to do the pre-birth work with you
yeah,
and
the
prenatal care with you, and they'll give you the teas, all the good stuff. You know, they'll prevent an emergency from happening, even to the point to where they might have to have you go get induced, you know, for a good reason, you know. And so it's just cool. It's just nice. You feel super safe, you know,
Yeah.
super cared for by somebody who is professional at what they do, you know, and who really cares for you. So
Yeah. Being induced, like, it's such a whirlwind because you have so many, like, when I first was admitted, they sent a midwife, you know, because they all saw on my chart. The cool thing is my midwife at home had called in to let them know I'm coming in. Here's her history. Here's why she's coming in. We did tests at home. So it was nice. They were like ready for me. And they all knew like that was my plan. And so they sent a midwife and she was super sweet. Like, what do you want from your birth? And I know, like, I'm so sorry you're not getting your birth. So like, what are your expectations? What are your desires? This, that, and the other. What would you like to avoid? But then it's like by the time I'm handed off to upstairs and then the nurse changes shifts and then it's like a new, like they're just like reading it okay, planned home birth, okay, you know. And it's like they never asked all those questions. That's what I'm saying. It's like you're just like, all right, you just kind of like let go. Like, I'm not gonna like try to explain my heart to you for my birth to every single person that comes to the room. And some of them are like super busy and short and some are super sweet and caring. So it's just like, it's just so funny being at the hospital. Like, that's what Michael was saying. It's like not personalized care. As much as they try to be so sweet and kind, it just isn't, you know?
Okay, it's time. Let's talk about what happened after you were admitted.
So it was about like 5-ish p.m. that we left triage where they're, doing monitors, all this stuff. They drew blood and they checked us into our room and they started us on, I think it's called Cytotec. They call it multiple things, but basically just the cervix softening pill just to start softening my cervix because I didn't have, I think I did have one check. I don't think I was dilated at all, like barely at all. So they just started the dilation process around like 5 or 6, I want to say. And then you just wait and you just wait for your next dose. They have that's it. You're just being monitored. You're just sitting in the room. Like me and Mike are like, we should have brought a game or something. You're just literally waiting for nothing, or for something to happen, to feel something. And they're periodically checking like, okay, like, are you feeling contractions? Like they can see on the monitor, like you're having a couple, this, that, and the other. But they want to know if I'm starting to feel them because they don't want to give you the next pill the next 2 hours and like send your body into like so many contractions. So they're just slowly giving you like, I think it's like they cut it up into like 6 little pills basically. I think they had given me 4 at this point. So we had actually kind of tried to get some sleep. I think we didn't really fall asleep until late. And they keep waking us up, And then around 4 a.m., I started feeling, I honestly felt nothing. I think it was like 3 that I felt a couple crampy contractions and that's it. But it was like nothing. Around 4 a.m., I started to feel some consistent, like small contractions where I was like breathing or like I was like, oh, I'm kind of breathing through them. And I was starving too. Like I was so hungry. We'd eaten at lunch and then we'd not eaten dinner. I mean, they sent me like a very bad dinner, but around 4 a.m. I started having contractions that I was kind of breathing through. And then Michael kind of woke up, even though I wasn't being super loud, but I was like, oh, you're awake, it's 4 a.m. And he's like, yeah, I can't really fall back asleep. He woke up being like, oh, you're breathing through some contractions. I was like, oh, you're awake? And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of up for the day. I was like, yeah, me too. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of feeling some contractions, but I was like, I'm so hungry. Like if this is like, I'm thinking, okay, now we're maybe beginning, the start. I'm like, okay, I'm starving. I'm like looking up, I'm like, the nearest Starbucks opens at 4:30 a.m. Can you go run and grab us breakfast sandwiches at 4:30? And I was like, and I'm gonna get up now. I'm like attached to the belly monitor. I was like, I'm gonna pee and stuff. I haven't peed forever. So I'm like, once I was sitting on the toilet, every time a little contraction came that I was breathing, it was like that position was a lot more. I was like, oh, like this is intense. So he's kind of out the door, like he has his keys in his hand ready to like, I'm like, go get us some food, And he was like, I don't know if I really want to leave you. Like you're breathing through these contractions. I'm like, yeah, but literally they just started. Like this is the beginning. Finally, we've been sitting here waiting for something to happen. But I'm like, man, I think I'm not breathing right because I'm starting to feel a little nauseous because I'm like, I feel like I'm just like getting too much off. I'm just like breathing too much, like, I don't know if that's a real thing. And then I come out, I was like, just wait for a sec. Like, let me just get off the toilet. So I get out and I'm kind of like standing and I'm like, oh man, these are kind of dense. He's like, I don't really know if I want to go get food right now. I was like, no, you should, you should. I mean, by then it's like 4:20 that I kind of leave the bathroom and it's starting to ramp up. And I get back into bed and I'm like laying on my side, just kind of like doing it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to hit the call button and let them know like things are starting to happen. So I like hit the call button. I'm like, it's like a random front desk. She's like, hello, you called, And I was like, hi, like my contractions are starting to get pretty intense and consistent. I'm kind of having to breathe through them. And she's like, and like, that was her response. And I was like, okay, well, you told me to let you know, like you keep asking, like, let me know when they start picking up. And I'm also like, I know my body. Like, I'm not just being dramatic. Like, they're starting to get intense. So I'm kind of giving you an update. I was like, well, okay, I'm letting you know. Like, we haven't even done a Foley bulb yet or anything. We've literally just done the cervix softener. So I'm like, can you send someone in? And maybe that means I'm ready for the next stage of the induction, Like, and she's like, well, she'll be back in a sec, It's like, okay, fine. By the time she came back in, I don't know what, 5 or 10 minutes later, within 10 minutes, Then I'm like, now they've picked up in the last like 10 minutes.
At 4:45, you were starting to have some heavier contractions.
Where I'm like, oh my gosh. And then Michael's like, you should just get an epidural, babe, like get it early this time. Like, don't wait till after Pitocin this time. So I'm talking to the lady, I'm like, oh man, these are starting to get really intense. Like, I was like, do people get an epidural just from side attack? Like, she's like, well, you could do like a fentanyl drip. Like, there's other pain management before the epidural, because it could be, you don't want to get an epidural too early. I was like, okay. I was like, I feel like a baby. Like, I just gave birth I was like telling her, I was like, I've done birth naturally at home with no medication. I'm like, but I feel like I almost want an epidural already. Like, this is, kind of, they're picking up, which again, had I been at home, I would have been like, oh, we're already nearing transition, because I know now. But because I'm like, this is an induction process, I just started feeling my first contractions and we're just on the cervix softener. Like, this is probably just the beginning. I was still so disoriented. Like, I didn't know how to like trust, whereas I should have known. I'm already gonna be in transition in a second. So like, she starts like a medication drip in my arm, and I was like, oh my gosh. By the time she started it, I felt relief for one, and then one contraction, and then they were immediately like intense again. And I'm like, shouldn't the medication? She's like, it takes about 15 minutes for the medication to start working, whatever. But she's like, but if at any point in the next hour, you can also get an epidural, like if you really can't handle it. So I was like, okay. So I went through a couple. I'm like, this is not working. Like, it had not even been 15 minutes and I was like, just order the epidural. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so intense. It's so intense. Cause like, by what time? 5, he was born at what time?
5:15.
Yeah. So it's like 4:45, whatever. Like, I was like, get the epidural. And then she's like, okay, I'm putting in the order. They have to approve it. I'm getting it for you right now. And I was like, okay, how long is it going to be? And like, sometime in the next 15, 20 minutes. I was like, I can't, I'm telling Michael at this point. Like, which means I was just already in full blown transit. I'm like, I literally can't, Michael, I can't. I'm like, pray for me, do something. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I literally can't. I can't do this. And I was like, I can't wait 15 minutes for an epidural, whatever. She like leaves. The nurses left, to do something, whatever. So it's just me and Michael in there. And I start like kind of pushing a little, like where I'm like, oh, like I just kind of feel like bearing down a little. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, bells are going off. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to push, but these are really painful still. I didn't tell him yet, though, that I was pushing. I kind of wanted to keep it to myself. And then I was like, I'm still like, this is hurting. And then I start pushing a little more. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to call the button again and I think she should come back in. I call him like, hi, like, I'm starting to feel pushy, and she's like, okay, she'll be back in. And again, I don't think they believe me, like, and I'm like, I know. And so anyway, so then I start pushing. And then I'm like, I'm fine. I look at Michael, I'm like, the epidural's not, and like, I'm not going to make it for the epidural. I was like, I've accepted, like, I'm fine now. This baby's coming for the epidural. Like, the epidural's not going to be here in time. It's coming. And I just I'm like pushing. And then when I feel the head, I'm like, Michael, I can feel her head. So then I was like, you should probably, I considered for a second, I was like, I kind of just want to birth her right now with just me and Michael. Like, but I was like, it's different. I'm on the hospital bed. That's probably not super safe. They'd probably be really mad at me if I didn't tell them. So I was like, I waited until I could feel the head. I was like, Michael, pop out and tell them I can feel the head, And so you tell them, like, you open the door and they're all kind of sitting there. It's like 5 a.m. or whatever. And you're like, hey, my wife can feel the head. What'd you do?
I walked out. They were all, on their computers. I said, hey, my wife's going to give birth. She can feel the head.
And then
like 10 of them just instantly stood up.
All of them pop up and run to the room. And like literally, then I'm like fully pushed. And I'm fine. I'm like,
oh yeah, I walk back in the room and I full on see a freaking head popping out.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pushing it, and I'm now good. I'm fine now. No pain. I'm like smiling. I'm like, this is my favorite part. I love pushing.
Justina's la-di-da talking to the nurses.
I was like looking at all these strangers are in there now.
The nurse is like, go, push. I was like, whoa, what's happening?
there was like an emergency.
I thought there was a problem. I was like,
because they just ran in and were like, that's all they were doing, just chanting push. Like no rhyme or reason, not waiting for contract, nothing.
There was this one girl specifically catching it like this. She had her hands out like under you, and then she was kind of tugging on the baby's head a little bit.
Yeah,
to pull out.
I was oblivious. I don't.
It was hilarious for me because I was looking at Justina and she was like, so happy. Like
I'm embarrassed. I'm like looking. He has a video. He doesn't have. It's not a full video of like her coming out, but it's a video up until that. So you hear them chanting push, and there's like a nurse up on my head. I don't remember this at all, but I'm.
They're drilling her like, come on, you got this.
Push. Yeah, like as if I'm struggling. And
which I thought, I'm a noob, right? But from the home birth experience.
Yeah, the difference.
I thought that you wait until you contract to push, and then you wait for the next contraction, and then you push again. And just coming from the home birth one and the last two pushes with Judah too, because even those nurses were a little different. It was odd. So I literally was recording because I was like, man, this is exciting. I'm gonna get the birth. Yeah. And after like 30 seconds of this chant of a push, I put my phone down. I was like getting concerned. It's like I'm walking up and I look at like Justina, and then she looks totally happy. I look at the nurse, and then the baby comes out. I was like, hey, was everything okay? She's like, yeah, perfect. This was great.
They're just
awesome.
Like freaking out.
I was like, what was that? I was like,
and in the video, you see me. I'm like looking at the nurse, and I'm like naively. Again, I'm in La La Land. I don't remember them chanting this. I'm like looking at her, like, oh, this is my favorite part. I love pushing. And you kind of see her. She's like passes. She's like, okay, that's fine. Push, like she's like literally like not. I'm just like la la la, like like totally oblivious to the fact. So it was kind of nice that I was like oblivious to it. I was like still very much in control. Like, and I even told them, I was like, I need to take a breath for a second. Like I'm fine, And they're like, okay, but then you need to push, And then it was kind of same thing. I was like, is everyone ready? Like I'm gonna push her out, basically, just fully push her out. And the cord was wrapped 3 times, around her neck, which the hospital always makes it like, oh yeah, it was like a triple whatever. Like they're all like, it was a triple whatever it's called, so they were all like, that was so crazy. They were all like, it was like the biggest. They're not used to not being prepared. They didn't have anything laid down, like all this stuff. And so it felt really nice that it was a failed home birth, and I had not planned going in being like, I'm going to give birth naturally at the hospital, no epidural. Like, that's not I'm just like, I'm not going to be like that. Like for the sake of like holding on to a natural birth. Like some women have it and it's amazing, but I'm like, there's no way. I'm not going to get induced and not get an epidural. Like there's just no way. And it was just like kind of, again, like it felt like another like nudge from God. Like it was like so fast. Like from my first contraction that I even felt at 4 a.m. She was born an hour and 15 minutes. By 5:15 she was here. And like they didn't even finish site attack. So it was just like, clearly, again, if I was at home and just dilated naturally, she would have just popped right out, and so it was just, that's all they needed to do is they dilated me in the hospital and she popped right out. And it was so nice. So I feel like I got 3 different birth experiences, even though I had 2 inductions. And so it was a really great experience. And this time we got to go into the induction so at peace. I wasn't like grieving a home birth for all kinds of weird reasons. I just was like, all right, this is it. And we were just excited. And we signed ourselves out of the hospital even faster. Like she was born at 5:15 and they tried to convince us to even stay till 5:15 in the afternoon, at least 12 hours. And I think we were home by like 12 or 1, so it was just like, and we had to sign the AMA, but I was like, we have midwifery care at home. Like, so it really was, we got to really quickly be home again and receive care at home. And yeah, so it ended up being a great experience. And I could not believe that it was so fast. I was ready for Pitocin and all of that stuff again, but it was really cool that it happened that way.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. So she's 3 weeks old now, right?
Yes. Yeah, 3 weeks old today.
So you haven't had a ton of postpartum experience yet, but how has postpartum so far been with now 2 little boys and a newborn?
I was really honestly like I got sick. We got the flu like when I was 35 or 36 weeks, and that was so those 2 weeks were so miserable. Like it was the worst sickness that I've ever had. And I was like, it mentally made me like scared for postpartum for some reason. Like I was like, what if I get sick again? Or what if whatever? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're about to do postpartum. Like this, I'm just like, this is miserable just being bad. I don't know. It just messed with me mentally. And then once I got over that, I don't even know why I'm like bringing that up. Once I got over that, I kind of, it forced me to like be like, okay, I need to mentally prepare for postpartum. It's not going to be the same as with Judah. With Judah, it was just us. No other kids were waking him up. Like I would lay him down on the couch and I would nap with him for like 3 hours, like as a newborn, you know. And it was so nice. And I'm like, I just have to accept that she's just going to be woken up, and I can't be like, this is, I mean, okay, at first I was like trying to come up with plans. Like, okay, Michael, you're going to have to be on the boys. And like, Judah's also in a season where he's like so attached to me, he won't let Michael put him down. And then he's also waking through the night again. You know, I'm like, this is going to be so miserable. We need to break this before the baby comes. Like, because there's no way that I can do this and whatever. Like, you have to figure out how to get him down, whatever. I'm like, he's not potty trained yet, like he's struggling with that, so it's just all this stuff and then I had to come to this point of like I just have to accept like she's the third child for a reason, and it's just meant to be a different experience. Like it's just she's going to be woken up all the time, and it's fine if she was about to sleep for 3 hours but the boys come in and wake her up after one, you know. And I'm just like kind of like this is the point, is just like we wanted a big family and this just comes with the territory. It's like we just have a bunch of toddlers who are all in diapers, and like it's just is what it is, and I just need to accept it for what it is, like no sleep, whatever. And I think because of I came to that realization, it has been the easiest transition for me. Like obviously the 0 to 1, like having that first was such a blissful, sweet, easy time. But this is just like what's another one to the mix? Like we're already the boys are already like unpredictable with their sleep schedules. They half the time they wake through the night, half the time they're peeing everywhere, they don't nap. Like it's like already like we're tired, we're doing it, we're in the thick of it. So it's like she's just like it's fine. I'm just gonna carry her in a wrap as more than I did with the boys and just deal with it. You know, it's just like I think you just kind of mentally submit. Like the set for me, the second is like you're interrupting this beautiful bubble of like what a newborn is supposed to be, but it's already been interrupted with her, and so she's just yeah, it's just like she has to be a go with the flow baby, and I have to be a go with the flow mom. So I feel like for that reason it's been easy. And then physically postpartum, like I do feel like because I got sick with Brew that first week, like I felt my body fevering, all this stuff. I was like, this time I am going to actually listen to my midwives when they say, do not get out of bed for the first week, you know? And then
Yep.
like I'm going to actually, even though I feel fine, and then actually not go on walks within the first 2 weeks. Like I'm not, you know, and I think that because I was like, okay, that's a real thing, even though you feel fine. I think it's been, and also just to be like, it's chaos out there. I'm just going to try to stay in bed with her as much as I can while Michael deals with the boys, like, and try to get little naps where I can. It's just been easier. So yeah, I think it's just been better because of that.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, something that you didn't mention, and I don't know how much you know about our birth story with our third, but we have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Um, and so like we have the two boys and then a girl, you have the two boys and a
Yeah.
girl. For us, all three of them were planned home births. For you, all three of them were planned home births.
Yes.
For us, our third was an induction at
Yeah.
38-ish weeks. For yours was
Yeah.
a 38-week-ish induction. Something else that we have in common and you haven't mentioned yet is so when we got home, we also signed the AMA and left early.
Yeah.
And when we got home, our boys had a stomach bug.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
everyone was throwing up, and me and Mia were stuck upstairs. When you got home, you
Yeah.
guys
So
had something
when we
similar
were
happening.
induced, we left that day. We were supposed to go to the park with our family that morning. We had a fun Saturday morning plan. And I woke up and got all dressed. And then I was kind of looking at the boys and I'm like, I think they have hand, foot, mouth. And so I texted, I'm like texting pictures of my sister. I'm like, do you think this is hand, foot, mouth? And she's like, yep. And then she sent me pictures of another kid that she's friends with, like that previous week who had it. Her friend had been sending her messages from, then they all are in the same church daycare. And he's like, yeah, they have hand and mouth. So like, don't come to the park. I was like, no, I was so bummed about our plan Saturday morning coming. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. We're gonna go into week. But I'm like, thankfully, I'm 38 weeks. We can get over this. And by the time I'm giving birth in 3 weeks, it's fine. And of course, then like an hour later, I get the call from the midwife. I was like, oh, wonderful. So it was extra hard. Yes, because we came home to two fevering kids with hand, foot, mouth. We got home. My mom had long sleeves and like snow gloves on them so that they could at least touch the baby. And like, it's so sad because my oldest, just all he wanted to do was like hold the baby. He's obsessed with her. And I'm like trying not to create a bad bond from the beginning. Like, you don't touch the baby, like I'm trying to explain, like, oh, you're sick, you're sick. As soon as you're better, like you can hold her, like not trying to be like, don't touch the baby. But yeah, so I'm like on top of our son struggling that week with sleeping. He's like, that week he was like waking multiple times in the night. And he's like, oh, 3.5. I'm like, we should be worrying about a baby, not you. He's like, so many sores all over his body. It has a fever. And it was just like, of course, we come home to that. So that's so funny. I didn't know you guys were sick too. It's like the worst thing with a
Yeah.
newborn.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So how was navigating that when you got home?
It was hard because I just felt so bad, like having the boys, like having to shoo them away. And um, luckily, for us, they had kind of fevered the week before. So they weren't as like in the thick of like just that sickness. Like when if we had the flu, I would have been like, I don't even know what I would have done. I would have asked the hospital to just stay all week because that was just miserable. Like, yeah, but thankfully, Michael, with hand, foot, mouth, it's a little harder for adults to get it. So we never got it. And I just kept getting a little worried. Like I was like checking her body all the time. Thankfully, like Brew was kind of getting over it by the second day home. And then Judah is older, so it was a little easier to be like, he could understand, like, oh, I don't want to get the baby sick. I was like, see these bumps. So it was hard, but I was like, this is what I was talking about, just accepting that the third baby is the third baby. Like, they're going to come home with sick. I'm not used to getting sick. I never get sick. But now this year, all of a sudden, we're getting every sickness. It's because now I have toddlers in childcare, you know what I mean? Or like, church class. And so I'm like, I just have to accept that now I wasn't used to Judah getting sick before he was 1 years old. And she's probably going to get sicknesses and I'm going to have to deal with that. Like, it was part of the, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, she's not going to sleep. The boys are going to be snotty. They're going to hit her. They're going to get her sick. I'm like, it just comes with the territory and like, you can accept it or I'm going to just mentally like lose my mind. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So how did your feelings about birth evolve from Judah's birth to Brielle's?
I mean, everything evolved. I feel like I just literally didn't know that this whole world existed. I didn't know that there was so much money in the birth industry. I didn't know that God, for us, like we're Christians. And so every other avenue of our lives, we're like asking God, like, for direction. But then when it comes to birth, we just like blindly trust like what we've been told our whole lives. But it's like, I realized so much, there's such deep rooted fear and beliefs in, like instilled into women that we are like women just don't want even challenge it or think about it. I'm not saying everyone should have a home birth, but it's crazy that like women just blindly are like, oh yes, I don't know how to birth. And yeah, I think there's multiple, like, I think that was the discovery like that I was making when I was pregnant with Judah was like, it was just eye opening with that, where I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy. Like, we've been fed lies about our bodies and what we're capable of, and fear, and like fearing pain, and that we can't endure pain, and all this stuff. Like, and then I got so passionate about it. I think that was part of the reason I was like so bummed that my birth, like I didn't get a home birth, because I think I was out to prove, like, see, like everyone's, which I think it was like humbling to like have to end up being induced, where I was like, that's still not the reason to like go down the home birth path, to like make a point to everybody. Like, so it was kind of good. And then my second, I had, I had already let go of all that. So then I got my home birth and it was just for me. And then the third, it was like, whatever, I didn't have anything in there. So it was like, go with the flow. But I'm still such a like, see, this is why I wish there was a marriage. The belief system that's formed throughout all of them is like, I wish there was a marriage between the care that you get if you choose to go down that holistic, natural home birth, midwifery, doula route. Even if you decide that you want a hospital epidural, but like birth, like, that's still like, why is there no in between? Like, I've now been sending all the resources to my friends, even though they plan hospital births. I'm like, but still take this supplement, or, oh, you're experiencing swelling, here's what my midwife gave me. Like, there should be a marriage of that in between, to at least avoid induction, or at least like, you're not just like helpless and it's like, oh yep, you have a breech baby, so when the time comes, just cesarean. It's like, no, actually, did you know that you can literally turn a baby breech, like beforehand? There's like things that you can do, like, or, oh yep, your baby's sunny side up, that's just the way it is. Like, no, actually, there you can go. It's like, why is there not? I wish there was just a marriage in between it. Even if you, again, you can choose your own birth story. So if you want to choose a hospital birth and you don't want to feel the pain, but I wish also that women could like at least start thinking about it, being like, oh, okay, like the reason there's so many interventions probably is because of induction. And why are there so many inductions? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why this compared to the percentage of inductions just 50, 100 years ago? Like, it's like, I just wish that women could, I wish all women could really like look inside and really challenge, like, why do I believe what I believe about pain and what I'm capable of? And because I get it, even when I tell people about my process, my thought process, or home birth, they still like, wow, that's amazing. Oh gosh, I just like, I have such a low pain tolerance. And I'm like, I'm like, I understand. It's like, but still, it's like, we're even afraid to like open up like our minds to challenge our beliefs about like what we can even tolerate, like, and what pain. I don't know. I'm probably not making sense, but I'm like, man, that's not true. Like, like, I don't like pain either. Like, it has nothing to do with pain tolerance. You know what I mean? Like, it has to do with like mentally preparing. I always think, the way I think about it is like, I look at women on social media, like, say they've lost like a loved one or a child, even, where I'm like, to me, the worst imaginable thing is like losing a young child, and you're like, that's just not how. And I look at them, I'm like, I physically would die. I'm like, I don't know how they're doing that. I would die. I would want to die. I cannot imagine going through pain like that. And yet I'm like watching them, and they literally are living their lives. They're continuing to live their lives. And I'm like, how are they doing that? And I'm like, it's because I think we fear the potential of pain so much more. But once once you realize like, you can come to terms with anything, like, once you're faced with something, you're capable of literally enduring anything. And then how much, so much more amazing is, it's not child loss, it's childbirth. Like, the reward at the end of it is incredible. Like, it's all for doing something. Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense. It just, I think that's just, it's just built in me, this like really big desire and passion for women to just like know that they can like think deeply and challenge the system and challenge what they've been taught about birth, still make whatever decision they want about their birth, but like think about why we're making those decisions and who created the systems in place. And is that really what you truly feel like is right for you? Instead of just like, oh, the hospital knows what they're doing and I have no clue how to birth. I've never birthed. So I'm just going to go and do whatever they tell me. It's like, but you're the one birthing, you're the one who's like born to birth. They don't even know your body, So I think that's been the biggest change, is just like, yeah, making me think deeply. Yeah.
Totally. I love that so much. That's gold. There's so much more we could talk about, but we are running out of time for
I know.
sure.
And now my kids are all up in their naps.
Yep. So Michael had to take off
Yes.
to help with the kiddos, but thank you so much for sharing your birth stories.
Oh, thank
I
you.
so appreciated it. Is there, so you're a photographer. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media?
You're so sweet. Right now, just Instagram, just Justina Lanae Photography. It's at Justina, JUSTINALANAE Photography on Instagram. And yeah, I love doing newborn and family. So if you are someone in the Roseville, Sacramento area, then yeah, I'd love to do that. And hopefully do one day birth photography. I'd love to do that too. So, but yeah, thank you.
Heck yeah, absolutely. All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me and listening to Michael and Justina talk about their 3 drastically different but equally amazing birth stories. If you like episodes like this, where you can hear real parents tell their raw birth stories, make sure to hit subscribe and sign up for the email notifications in the link below. And if you're sitting here listening to this podcast and you're just feeling fear about your upcoming birth, and you're wondering how you can overcome your fear like Justina and Michael did, I would love to share with you my free ebook called 5 Steps to a Fear-Free Birth, so you can go through it step by step by step and break down your fears so you can have a fear-free birth. Also, if you have an incredible birth story that you want to tell, stop what you're doing right now, go down into the show notes, click the link, fill out the form, and let's talk birth.